On my Instagram, Emmy Eats Nola, I really pride myself on showcasing local New Orleans spots. I think that when you step into a restaurant, you're really stepping into their space, their headspace, their creativity, their zone. And it's my honor to photograph the food that they have to display and to share it with everyone on social media.
Yay Networks.
A quick note before we dive into today's podcast. If you like what you hear, I would love for you to subscribe to Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, wherever you download your podcast. It would also be incredible if you take a minute to rate and review this podcast. Those things do matter and they really help us. One of the reasons I love hosting this podcast so much is that it gives me free reign to ask questions. I can ask questions and it's completely appropriate because it's for the podcast. And one of our guests today is Emma Poling, and she's a perfect example of this. I know Emma well. Emma works with our Eat Fit team. She's our Eat Fit NOLA dietitian. She runs all things related to our Eat Fit nonprofit initiative with Oxnard Health throughout the greater New Orleans area and beyond. So there's so much in that role, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it a little bit as we go. But in addition to that, and for years, Emma is and has been a very prominent food influencer, restaurant influencer, and through her own personal account on Instagram, it's Emma Eats Nola. And it's a perfect tie-in with her experience with this, that she brings the relationships and kind of the inside knowledge of the inner workings of restaurants that she brings as a dietitian into the Eat Fit team. So I think all of us, as we're scrolling through social, we'll see different people that, wow, she's at all these different restaurants. She has all these different really cool events she's going to. How does she get the photos so beautiful? How does, what are those conversations like? How do you even get into this world as a dietitian? Are there any things that kind of feel like a push-pull? Like how does it all tie in? So this is where we get to ask some of these questions. So welcome, Emma.
Hi, thank you.
And you're such a good sport for doing this subject with us. It was one of those that sort of was like the, hey, that would be cool if, and you were like, I'm down.
Poof, here I am.
And so our producers, Riley and Michaela, were excited also that you were going to be joining. And so we're going to be incorporating some of their questions through that are sort of, I think, questions that a lot of our listeners would have too. So tell us a little bit about, I guess, about the role as an influencer. And how do you feel about that word? Because I know a lot of people kind of have mixed feelings about it.
Yeah, I think it's something that people maybe self-identify as. I don't know if that's necessarily how I go. I'm definitely a huge fan of food. I'm definitely a fan of restaurants. I love supporting local establishments and throwing them some attention. I think a lot of places in the Greater New Orleans area really deserve that appreciation and attention, and that's kind of what I like to focus on when I'm posting. I'm grateful that people are influenced by that aspect of what I do. That they trust that my recommendations are something that they want to go and check out and enjoy. And I get a lot of positive feedback from people that say that it worked out, say that they do love the spot that they checked out.
It was one of the things that, I've known you as a dietitian for years, but especially as you were joining our team with Eat Fit and you and I were talking about that, a lot of people go into social media collaborations and different, whatever that kind of different look looks like, whether it's paid partnerships or sponsored, pieces. And we'll talk about this because it's not something that you do specifically, but there's a lot of different reasons someone may enter into that. But for you, it's truly rooted in celebrating restaurants, celebrating that the culture, the chefs, the basically the whole fabric of the restaurants.
I think having the genuine appreciation for the craft that they do. I was also in service industry for about 6 years. So I've also been on the other side of it, and I've seen all of that as well. As far as developing content, for me, what's really big is staying true to the integrity of everything and what I really do like about the establishments that I visit and the food that I enjoy. I think with anything that you do in life, if you're doing it just purely for financial gain or for clout or for attention or what have you, and you're not actually operating out of a space of respect, possibly even collaboration, but ultimately that integrity, that care, that enjoyment, I just don't think it flies quite like when you're being genuine does.
It shows so much. And there's some accounts that I'll look at And as you're kind of scrolling through it, it's so highly curated.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll look and then when you take a closer look, you realize every one of these posts, and many aren't related to food. There's someone that I'm thinking about. It's a college athlete who now is receiving payment for, because now under the new, I guess, regulations or rules, they can receive payment for likeness. And so it's a college athlete who has a lot of just what look like personal posts. But then when you actually look, almost every single post is sponsored. But looks very organic. And unless someone is actually, knowledgeable about what to look for or whatever, it looks like these are just things that this person's posting, but not. And when you start to see that, to me, it loses so much authenticity. It's almost as if there's none.
Yeah, I think people get really crafty about it, like you said, nowadays too. Like maybe you can't even tell by first glance, but you are in fact being sold something. And I think that's also on the consumer to recognize whether they're being sold or whether it's something that genuinely is delicious or is good for you or what have you. I don't know. Yeah, I just really pride myself on everything that I'm never going to badmouth anyone. That's not my style either. If I go to a spot and I didn't necessarily enjoy it or something happened with the service or whatever, I'm not going to like blow anyone up online. You may just notice that it doesn't make it onto the feed, but everything that I post is genuinely something that I've enjoyed and that I want to share and bring attention to. And it's because I'm a fan.
And I think letting listeners know. So if you're listening and you're curious, I think we said it at the beginning, but it's Emma Eats Nola, EMMAEATS NOLA, Emma Eats Nola on Instagram. So I think we'll also share later some of the different accounts and the types of accounts that Emma personally likes to follow. But I think it's just sort of understanding, I think one is Emma's approach and hearing your approach specifically, and then also kind of the different approaches that are out there. And so for our listeners, if you are following these different influencers, kind of knowing, okay, what is genuine and what is truly someone's opinion and their feel, and then also what might they be getting paid for, and they look like they're really enthusiastic about it, and they still may be, even if they're getting paid for it. So on your end, it isn't paid collaborations.
It is not. Don't get me wrong. There are fun perks. I love getting invited to a restaurant opening.
Because the perks are really, really cool.
They are. They're fun. I love getting, a fun new king cake every year, or being invited to a restaurant opening, or maybe a menu launch, or like Tales of the Cocktail. I was invited to a ton of different parties, and then just, you get to hang out with the other quote unquote influencers too, and check out new products and things like that. I'm a yes person. I'm not one to say no to when I'm offered super fun, exciting new experiences like that. But I'm also never going to be the one to slide into the DMs and hustle anyone for a payment in exchange for post or anything like that. Not my style.
So the perks, to me, it is, during Tales, I think like every single day, and Tales of the Cocktail Y'all is an event here that's a week long. Kind of celebrate.
So fun.
Yes.
I did 9 events that week. Your girl was tired.
Unfortunately, we ended on the 0 proof cocktails with Liars.
Liars on Friday was a great day.
So how does that even get started? Like, walk us through. You mentioned you were in the service industry before. You've been a dietitian for
6 years, almost 7.
And an influencer for about that long?
Just about that long, yeah.
How did you sort of step into that space more? Because like, I guess if someone's listening and they would be like, wow, I feel like I have something to add in that space, or they're interested in doing this personally or would want to learn more, like, how did that even become a thing?
Yeah, I think the first step is definitely just like getting out of your own way a little bit. I was a little bit, concerned. Well, what would they think if I posted something, or how would it come off? Just anyone that might have known you in your past. When, once again, 6, 7, 8 years ago, when I was maybe like younger and in a different
like,
head
who does she think she is?
Exactly.
I would have never thought that you would have had that thought.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Also, I think Instagram was a little bit of a different landscape again 6, 7, 8 years ago. It was, influencer was pretty novel, and not that I pioneered anything by any means. I definitely was. I feel like I was a little late to the rat race, if anything. But I was actually posting like, me maybe like doing like a little yoga pose at the apartment, recipes that I would create, or at least just like pretty food photos just from my own kitchen, or certainly like little travel photos. And then it just, you keep walking down the path and you keep seeing what gets good response. You keep seeing what makes you happy to share. You keep honing your photography skills. And I think you just develop a little bit of like a propensity for like the direction that you want to take things in. And it definitely I wound up moving. At the time I was still in Baton Rouge. So I wound up moving back to home, New Orleans. And I like to say there's practically more restaurants than there are people here. So I think, again, that just naturally nudges you down a path. And it just became more and more about the restaurants, more and more about me honing what I like to see in a photograph, what I like to talk about in a caption. You figure out the tags, you meet the other influencers in the area. We see each other a lot at the events. So yeah, I'm really big on like, again, just saying yes a lot, just being open opportunity, and you continue to walk down this path and hone what you have going on. And
so when you were posting, like you said, kind of organically, here's a cool exercise or a cool at home little meditation or yoga pose or recipe, and you were sort of in that space, and then you started a little bit more branching into restaurants. Do you remember what was like your first invitation to something, like your first someone outside of you who was saying, "Hey, Emma, we want you to take part in this, or we want to share this with you. Can you share it with your followers?"
Goodness, I'm trying to think. Very early on, I got invited to like a Hard Rock Hotel menu launch that they were doing with this like gold foil covered cheeseburger that they had. Made for an excellent photo, and it was a good time. I wound up meeting a lot of the other influencers. I don't think that was certainly early on. It wasn't the first though. But yeah, I think I just really, you get those first few messages.
Right.
People reach out to you, and it's so exciting. You gain that traction and that
trust.
Yeah. That lights that little fire too. Like I said, I think it was really important that I got out of my own way and that I thought less about what other people would think of me and more about just how fun I was having doing it and like growing into my own and that. But it certainly is validating and exciting to get those events and to meet the other influencers, and you just keep growing and growing.
And then probably from that, it is word of mouth or a PR, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine there's like the PR company that is hosting an event on behalf of a restaurant, and then they're going to talk to other folks in the PR industry. Oh, who are the influencers you invited to that event?
There are, yeah. I mean, I've been reached by marketing groups. I remember in the early days, like Louvi here, for example, so sweet, a little restaurant, and they just reached out to me directly and wanted to like, you literally used me as a guinea pig to sample some new menu items, and they were wonderful, of course, because that spot's excellent.
How many other people was it? You or?
No, I brought Dad. Really? I brought my dad in, and we just sat down at the counter right across from Chef, and he brought out. I mean,
it was his focus group of two.
It was, yeah. But it's, again, I like appreciated how much like that he trusted me to come in and taste those things, and they were great, and they're on the menu still. There's little like soup-filled dumpling things that they have, and. Yeah, it was like a super fun experience. Yeah. So sometimes it's the restaurant owner or a manager will recognize you. Like sometimes they're a fan. Like I know Michael Gulata now too, of like Mofo and Maypop, just from socializing at these events and from dining into the restaurants. Like you post about them, you tag them, they start to notice you, then they invite you in, and it's just like a really nice appreciation circle.
Your dad is like your partner in crime in so many things too. And your dad is also a big enjoyer of like dining out in restaurants. So I would imagine he's like, hell yeah.
Yeah. He's like, where are we going now? If there's nothing on the horizon, he's the first one to be like, all right, where are we going next week?
So one of the questions that our producers had that I wanted to make sure we ask, I thought this is I don't think I hadn't actually thought of it this way. Their question is, does being a food influencer take some of the fun out of dining out? I think I know the answer to it, but I think it's still a good question.
Yeah, I don't think for me. I think sometimes there's a little bit of maybe caption creation fatigue when it comes to actually like pulling the trigger, so to speak, on the post. No, but certainly the fun part of the quote unquote job is dining in at the restaurant, enjoying the good food, maybe meeting an owner or a manager, spending time with the people that you're there with to enjoy the food. And I like taking the photos. I like studying the menus. I like just about anything. I'm very food adventurous, so that's always fun for me. But yeah, sometimes on the flip side, I'll come home and you're laying in bed and you don't necessarily want to create the caption or edit the photo or what have you. But I would say that would be the only part that's a little fatiguing.
And that's Also, I think because this is something you do out of the passion for restaurants and celebrating the restaurant, celebrating the chefs, celebrating that world, and it isn't what you're relying on as like, it isn't your full-time gig. It isn't how you're like paying the bills. This is what you're doing because you truly love it.
Right.
If you were, that might be a little bit different,
Mm-hmm.
but it can just be sheer creativity because there's really no pressure
Mm-hmm.
to do it. And like you said, if you don't love it, you're probably just not going to post about it. And then if you more often than not, almost always, you're just going to be in for it and taking it as it comes and just enjoying it.
Yeah.
You know,
I tried it too. It's really, because like I said, being in the restaurant, being in that space, eating the yummy food and taking the photo and spending the time and all of that is certainly the fun part. But it's, I mean, like with so many other things in life, it's just like habit formation. So whether or
Right.
not I want to lay there and edit the photo or create the caption or formulate all the hashtags, tag all the other influencers, that's certainly the, the legwork, the background work, but it's what affords me also all of these other fun
right.
opportunities. And, it's what keeps the
It
engine
maximizes it.
going. So I try to look at it that way whenever I get in like a little slump with something like you might with any other habit
Right.
or anything that you have in your life. I just try to really stay on task and like keep my eyes on like the bigger prize.
Because those steps are like, they're the less glamorous part of it.
Mhm.
It is kind of like the crunch work after, being out and socializing and eating the food and meeting the chef and, all of that is.
And you got to work.
Right. Then
Yeah.
there's and it's, talk about like your role with Eat Fit, because that isn't what this is about, but it ties in so seamlessly. Like, I
Mhm.
feel like just so much of your world is centered around restaurants and menus.
It is.
And chefs and
It
conversations
is.
with
Well,
them.
I think there's always too. I think like such a huge cornerstone of EFIT is that like the food should be delicious. We are nutritious and delicious. And I think that a lot of the experiences that I have in New Orleans restaurants can check multiple boxes. We're certainly an indulgent
Right.
town, but we also have so many delicious options. And so I like to go in and like, again, because like through Instagram, through Emma Eats NOLA, I, have been afforded the opportunity to meet chefs and owners and other collaborators. And, you work with them a little bit more topically for what I do for fun, but certainly for Eat Fit. And then with, my background in service industry as well. Like I know how they're thinking. I know how they're working. I love to work with them on maybe like a new menu item or what something like logistically might look like. And then just above all, as a native New Orleanian, it needs to be delicious. So yeah, I love doing definitely all the food, chef, restaurant aspects of Eat Fit.
It's a little bit different because as you're scanning the menu through the Eat Fit lens, you're looking for different things than as
Mhm.
you're scanning the menu through like the Emma Eats NOLA lens. But watching your conversations with our restaurants, with the chefs or managers or owners of the restaurants, it's just a very organic, seamless, effortless that you can come in and
Thanks.
you're kind of immediately in their space and have that understanding. And even if they haven't worked with you before in the influencer space, from what I see and just kind of the observing of it, they instantly feel that connection or that trust. And like they know that you've like got it. Like you don't have
No.
to, you're not trying. It's very much just an automatic like,
It's a collab. It's an
Yeah.
appreciation. I think it's the same approach that I have with Emmy. It's NOLA. I'm not
Mhm.
going in there and necessarily like asking them for anything or selling them or anything. I'm there to like appreciate. I mean, they're in their space, first of all. It's their building, it's their menu, it's their business. And in these trying times, sometimes that can be a little bit dicey for them
Mhm.
financially or even as far as hiring goes. So I'm in their space. I'm there to enjoy their creation and what they've put out. I'm pretty sure it's probably going to be delicious because I like to think I have a little hack or little edge for reading menus. So I like to go in there. But yeah, there should be an appreciation there, I think. We're working with them. We're not their client, they're not our client. I really just think it's like such a collab and I appreciate what they do. I appreciate them working with us.
How do you plan content for Emma Eats NOLA? Like, how do you plan, I'm going to do this post or this restaurant, or do you? Is it pretty organic or are you kind of thinking a few weeks ahead?
It oscillates. I normally have a lot of photos in my drafts folder on Instagram, like already edited and ready to go. Then it's just a matter of me actually creating the caption, doing all the tags, and launching it. Because then I know I'll be inundated with likes and comments, and then there's more interaction that happens there. So it really is, sometimes it's such a undertaking to actually pull the trigger on the post for the personal account. But a lot of the times things can be time sensitive, whether it's king cake and or event coming up, if I've been invited to a festival or something like that. Obviously that's scheduled out, or if there is a collab, then that's scheduled out. A lot of it though is just kind of born of, I follow other influencers, or even like Eater Nola or like Ian McNulty or those kinds of people. And they'll have the newest, the latest, the greatest, whatever. And if it's something that sparks my interest, then I like to make a note and go as soon as possible
Right.
and kind of get the jump on it.
Right.
So yeah, I would say it's like healthily. I also, though, as important to me as it is to get the jump on the latest and greatest and the shiny and the new, I love my classic spots that people that follow me are going to see that I go
Right.
to all the time. Because I think that loyalty and all of that is really important too. So for me, it's a healthy mix of kind of like premeditated, trying new spots, or something that's seasonal. I was definitely one of the first people to post, a certain, event or king cake or whatever at certain points in time. Like I kind of pride myself on also being a little bit ahead of the curve on those things. But I do like the balance of staying super loyal to those classic New Orleans spots that I love.
I think that shows, and it goes back to having that genuine care and not just what's going to resonate that's new and, attention getting. Let's take a minute to talk about Green Chef, our sponsor for this week's episode. Green Chef is a certified organic meal kit company. They make nutritious meals incredibly easy with plans to fit every lifestyle. So whether you're paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, or just looking for a bit more balance, Green Chef offers a range of recipes to suit nutritional needs and preferences. And they're more customizable than ever. In addition to swapping out the protein for organic beef or chicken or wild-caught salmon, you can also add chicken or fish to specific vegan and veggie recipes for that added boost of protein. And Green Chef features organic produce, premium proteins, and sustainably sourced ingredients. For us, it's a tremendous time saver. They also make it effortless to add variety and creativity to our weeknight meals. Go to greenchef.com/fueled60. Use promo code fueled60 for 60% off plus free shipping. That's greenchef.com/fueled60. Promo code fueled60 for 60% off plus free shipping. Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for eating well. The photos that you do, the videos that you do, the techniques, I know it's hard to explain without showing. It's hard for it to be an audio only explanation. But for someone listening who is, because even if someone is not, as most people are not food influencers, they're not doing this, in the way that you are on their social accounts. But my gosh, how many people still are taking pictures of their food who have nothing to do? Like for us, at least, like we have, not even at least, but we have Eat Fit. And so like for the Eat Fit realm, even separate from Emma Eats Nola, there is a ton related to what that food looks like on our plate at a restaurant. Like that's so much centered around what we do. So I feel like when I'm taking pictures of my food at a restaurant, it is also ties in with quote work, But there's so many people that, when we were on vacation and we were in this little tiny place in the middle of nowhere, very few people spoke English, and it felt very refreshing. It felt very simple, very low key. And we're at one place that like doesn't even have any windows or doors. It's like, I thought, what do they do when a storm comes? Because there's like no way to like batten down the hatches. And I look over at this table and they're all like barefoot, about to eat. And as the food comes, all 8 of them take out, it was a family. They all take out their phones. And I'm like, it was the least expected thing in that place in that moment. And I'm like, this is everywhere. We were literally on the other side of the world. And I thought, this happens. It's just starting to be ingrained. So for the person who is like, yep, that's me. Like I have nothing in my job or anything on my social that is tying in with food. I just really like having beautiful pictures of what I ate and I
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed it. What are some of the like techniques or kind of like things that you find useful?
I think so. A lot of people ask me about like how do I get good at food photos, technique, that kind of stuff. I think what I would say is that currently I have 27,639 photos in my phone.
I'm going to see how many I have.
So
That's
I've
awesome.
practiced. I really think for me, it's just been about taking as many photos as I need until I like what I see. I think sometimes people will just get the shot, but it has to be the shot. I just know what I like. I know what the composition should looks like. I know what the margins should look like. It's just I like to say I have a girlfriend that I laugh about this with. She's also in the like social media space, so she understands when I'm like, hold up, the food arrived. You have to get my photo, because she's getting hers too. But I like to get kind of like tight and like under the front of it, sort of. She and I joke that it's like my explicit food shot, because I just think like food looks really tasty when it's like crisp and fresh and you're kind of close up on it, and nothing like a good flyover either. But I keep, you keep practicing and practicing and practicing.
Okay, I'm
like
going to
with
interpret
anything.
it all for our listeners. Everything you just said, I'm going to try to turn it into a visual for our ears. So yeah, we're both looking at our photos. Both of us have more than like 20,000 photos in our photo libraries on our phone. And same when I take pictures, what it could be of people. My sister-in-law was married this past weekend, and just of her getting ready and getting her hair done. I think I landed with like 3 really good ones, some cute ones with a golden retriever, Ella in it. It took 30 to get those 3. And so I just do that for any
That's
photos.
the secret. I've
Yeah.
had friends that are wedding photographers. They'll take thousands of
Yeah.
photos just to get the bride back like 100 or
Right.
whatever.
Right. And so I think not being afraid to just keep snapping in different angles. And so when Emma's talking about getting kind of like down under the dish,
Mm-hmm.
what I've seen you do is you'll take the plate of food and you'll kind of bring it towards the edge of the
I
table.
do.
And then you drop your phone below the edge of the table. So if you
Mhm.
can imagine, if you've got your phone, you're holding it upright. You're not tilting the phone over the table. So just to our listeners, you're holding the phone upright, like up and down in front of you. And then you lower it. So like the bottom half of your phone is like,
Like on the edge of the table.
Yeah,
I want
below
the
the edge of the
camera to be
table.
as close to the food as possible. And sometimes that edge of the plate or that edge of the table or whatever it is, you just can't get like as low or as tight as you'd need to maybe get like the photo that really looks good to you. So definitely playing on, moving the plate around. If there's a weird piece of cilantro in the way, move it. If you're catching a shadow, figure that out. If I'm not above switching seats with someone, like,
right.
switching
Switching seats, finding out like what's the front of that dish. And a lot of
Mhm.
times,
Spin it.
depending on the restaurant, a nicer restaurant, they know that
Place
presentation
it.
side. But if you turn the plate around and you're looking at it from all angles, you'll kind of notice there's a better side to it.
Mhm.
Like everyone thinks they maybe have a better side. Like the food also does. And it might be like the way that if it's shrimp, the way that the shrimp are kind of angled towards the camera versus seeing the back of it. Like I'll kind of think of it as you're looking at like the backside of something on your plate. A lot of times too, there's like a backside of the plate. But going back to that camera positioning, just to kind of think about where your camera is on your phone, it's high. So you're dropping your phone below the lip of the table. And so only what's peeking over the top is that little camera.
Mhm.
And then you're really getting, that's what Emma's saying when she talks about like getting kind of like below the food or getting that close to the food. And you're bringing the table, the plate kind of close to the edge of the table. That's one. The other you mentioned is a flyover. Talk about a flyover.
So flyover would be mostly just your plate or your sorry, your plate. Your phone is right in line with the plate, over top of it. And that's more if you have like multiple items on the plate, or if you're trying to get a spread of a table, for example, you want to be high up over it so you're covering a little bit more like surface area.
So you're kind of holding your phone parallel to the table. It looks
Mhm.
like you're just like hovering over it. And it's sort of like you're panning over the top
Yeah,
of it.
you want to be mindful for shadows and composition and all of that too, but such a good option, especially if you're dining with a few other people and you really want to get like the 5 plates of food
Right.
or whatever going on, or all the apps or what have you.
And that would be just kind of a short video. One thing that I think a lot of people don't give themselves permission to do is cut off part of a plate or photo or part of the food and like let our minds fill in the gap of it. So many times we think we must get that whole plate in that shot of food, but sometimes missing pieces of it, our brain assumes what's there, and it's a beautiful photo, maybe a more artistic or creative composition. Talk to us about that too.
I think sometimes you can focus on something that's like the most interesting aspect of it too. So if something has a really interesting edge, or like if you said if the shrimp are like more localized on one side of the plate or something like that, like do we really need to see what else is going on, or can we focus on like the ultimate beauty spot of the plate or the whatever it is? So yeah, I'm not against at all just focusing on
A portion,
like really with the magic spot. I also think too, just another random, an aside, a tip, what have you, don't be afraid to take like 1 or 2 extra, even if you're like, oh, I got it, that was it. Take like 1 or 2 more. Just do it.
Yeah.
Seriously. Sometimes I think in the moment that that's it, I got it, that was it. And then I get home and I look at my photos and I'm like, I don't like any of these,
Or something was in there that you didn't realize. Like,
I'll take those 1 or 2 extra and I'll get home and it'll be one of those that makes it
Right.
onto the feed.
So on the angles that you're taking the photos, so for people, a lot of times people may hold their phones directly over it and get a shot of that. And in that case, you may get that whole round plate or square plate or whatever, and you're getting like kind of the bird's eye view of your plate. Then, and that could be a photo. You could also do, as Emma called it, like the flyover video from that bird's eye view. You could also drop your phone down off the lip of the table, like we were talking about. So your camera is like really close, kind of like up in the food. And that's going to give you a nice way that you can kind of get maybe a 45-degree angle, kind of looking down at the food a bit, or you could get kind of a side view. That side view, y'all, if you've got something that's stacked, use that.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Because if you've got like a pretty layered anything, like I love anything in a cylinder that's layered and stacked.
Tasty looking.
I mean, if something is, if they're telling me that anything is like a stack in a cylinder, I'm like, yes, it doesn't.
I'll take 2.
My sister-in-law, Tracy, was like, there was one of the restaurants, like they had one appetizer and then it was in a cylinder and they changed it to where it's like more deconstructed or vice versa. I can't remember. And like she loved it the deconstructed way, and I was like so distressed that it was no longer.
Like it doesn't taste as good,
right? It's just it's like fascinating how it's like that. But that's one where again the layers. Like if you think about like a lasagna, or like if it's like a like layers of like eggplant and tomato and mozzarella, whatever. All of that, if it's layered, you want to see those layers. That's going to be one that would be less valuable as that overhead shot. So kind of looking at that composition of the dish and seeing, what's going to work. And that's where Emma's talking about like taking a couple of different images. What about editing photos? If someone's not, and there's so many tools, but for someone who's kind of just getting into that, what are some of the top recommendations you'd say?
So I still remain the biggest fan of just editing directly in Instagram. It is my favorite. There's so much that you can do with clarity, with saturation, with sharpness, with warmth, with all of it. I mean, you can brighten, you can work with shadows. I like just the normal Instagram editing. And then also, like I said, sometimes I do get like those whiffs of inspiration and I'll power through like quite a few what would be posts and I'll edit. And then they're all just living in my draft folder on Instagram for when I do want to, create a little blurb for the caption and actually do post it.
For the person though, who isn't going to do it for Instagram, they just really want them on their own or to share with their friends or to text to someone. Do you use any of the iPhone settings or no?
I don't really. I mean, I know that there are apps out there. There are things like Lightroom and Darkroom and all of those things. I don't really use any of the phone filters. Sometimes there's that one little button that you can enhance. It looks like the little fairy wand or what have you. And I'll fairy wand it if it needs it, but then I kind of continue the journey directly in Instagram.
So two things that I'll say, if someone has just with your iPhone, you can pull up, there are like ways that you can edit your photos in just your iPhone settings. And what you'll look at is like when you are, like Emma mentioned, it's got the little wand and it just says auto, and you click on that and that'll kind of it does almost like what the iPhone thinks would be the best way to edit this photo. As you kind of slide over, there's several different ones like exposure, brilliance, highlights. One that I'll use a lot is shadows. So I'll click on shadows and then you'll see what I mean when you get in there. You can adjust it from like the middle, like baseline is 0. You can like bring it as high as 100 or to like minus 100. And so it'll sort of let you click on the different ones. And so for shadows, a lot of times I'll click on that to help kind of brighten it. And again, just like Emma said earlier, trying to be mindful of shadows. If there are some that are subtle, play with it and just pull a photo out that you just took, either, a food or whatever. Food especially, because we'll be talking about a few other things specifically, but play around with some of those settings. I tend to like shadows. I'll hit that and kind of like raise that a bit so it's lifting some of the shadows. I'll also do brightness if it is a little bit kind of flat. There's one that you can click saturation, that if sometimes you'll see something was like really vivid, but in your photo,
a light hand with saturation, especially in Instagram. I only put it on like 2 if I use it at all.
It makes it's like the little, like, it's a great point. If you do too much in saturation, your people are going to look like Oompa Loompas. And like,
an avocado just doesn't look right.
Avocado looks like green apple green.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful with it, but just that little bit of touch can bring that vividness that if you're like, man, it looks a little flat, like that red was so bright and juicy, but it's not looking like that in the photo. Just a smidge of saturation can help. And then the last 2 that I would say, there's warmth, that if your photos have that yellow hue because of the lighting of your home or your restaurant, play around with reducing the warmth and that'll help to pull back some of that yellow. The other one that I'll use is sharpness.
I love sharpness. It's my favorite.
Do you know that you have to be careful with that on people?
Oh, well, I mostly do food, Molly, but
if you're doing people, sometimes it makes things look really strange.
I bet.
And
no one ever wants to look sharp.
Yeah,
around the eyes or anything.
Right. It's taking what are the imperfections on someone's face or naturally, especially like as we age. And sometimes I'll go, oh wow, that was such a disservice to that person. Let me like remove that.
Ooh, but for food, it is gorgeous.
It pops like if you imagine like the segments in like or like the some of the most beautiful, I think, or even the lines in a beet or like a watermelon radish, those types of things when you do sharpness.
Yeah. It just makes it look so much more distinguished and yummy.
So those are some of the settings that I would say just are in your iPhone. One app that I use is Snapseed, and it has all similar type settings that we just talked about or similar type things that you can edit. There's one thing on Snapseed that I'll use, and it lets you pinpoint a spot on a photo, and it'll let you you can do greater saturation, less. You can like all those different things we talked about. You can pinpoint it by a spot on a photo. And for me, one of the like things that drives me nuts is yellowed plates because like, like if you're at a restaurant and you take a picture, the lighting, it can make the food look beautiful, but the plates look yellow when the plates are like really bright white. And so something like that little pinpoint of that can help
just brighten everything.
Yeah. Especially
without
like,
brightening the entire image.
Exactly. Cool. Yeah. Cause you don't want to change your food, but maybe the linens or the plate could be a little bit like less yellow. So those are some of the edits that are on, because I'm not typically actually ever editing in Instagram. So between the two of us, I think we kind of have both of those bases covered. But do you think like, do you edit most food photos before you're going to post it or share it?
Yeah, definitely.
Me too. There's very few food photos that you're going to just land on and they're just spectacular. Every once in a while, if the lighting is just right and all that. But for
me, I like them bright. I actually like them a little bit warm. I definitely like them sharp, and I fiddle with the highlights and the shadows and all of that too.
I think what's interesting is if you look at someone's social media account often, if there's a kind of a vibe of their photos, and you're like, man, that looks really cool. And they kind of have like found the style that kind of is their like.
Exactly. I think, like I said, you come to know what you like,
But then you scroll through that person's account for like way back when they first started.
Oh, you do the deep scroll?
Yeah. I think it's interesting sometimes that the look will completely shift over time for people. And so if there is somebody that you're following and you think, man, I really admire their photo style, and you think that seems really intimidating, or even if you're looking at Emma's and you're like, man, I don't know if I could ever do that. I've actually never looked way back at yours, but
there were filters. You can scroll back.
It can be really like validating to us to be like, okay,
the progression,
right?
Me too.
Yeah. Exactly. So So some of the other, is there any other things that you would say for someone that are just kind of like, like secrets of the trade, like peeking behind the curtain that you would say, or just some things that you've learned along the way, either in photos or relationship building or anything like that?
Let's see. For photos, definitely being organized. Like I said, you don't wind up with 27,000 photos in your photo bank without needing some organization going on. I hate whenever I maybe forget to post about a place and then maybe the followers assume that I actually didn't really like it or what have you. So yeah, I don't really like being in the hole with posting. I try not to be, but doesn't always work out that way. And then as far as the relationships go, like I said, I think it's just like really important to me to respect that like I'm in their space and I'm there to enjoy what they've created. And I never want to be hustling anyone or asking anyone for free stuff, or I don't know. It's just the integrity is like really big for me.
It's what you're going to feel comfortable with, and it's true to you. Two more questions that our producers have. As a dietitian, their question was, do you find that it helps or hinders as a food influencer?
I mean, certainly for EatFit, it helped me. I'm a native New Orleanian, I think, first and foremost. And I think that's where that was kind of born from. If anything, I think that's where the dietitian aspect of me also came from. It's because I love food. Dietitians joke a lot, we're not the food police, but for me, it really is just because I love food so much. I want to talk about how delicious it is and also how nutritious it can be for us. And so, I don't think that it hinders. I think that, I don't know, we're maybe chicken or the egg here. Though.
Yeah. In the EatFit space, because EatFit also, we should say, has a really beautiful social account. We're talking about Emma with Emma Eats NOLA, but you can also follow EatFit NOLA and see Emma's space there on behalf of EatFit, where it is specifically like nutrition related, but in the similar sphere. And the other question that our producers have, there's not a specific food that you won't eat, right?
No,
I've never heard you say that.
Adventurous.
Like I've never heard you say, I don't eat or I can't have something for any kind of intolerance or any reason.
There are certain textures I don't necessarily love. Like Jell-O's not my first pick. I was just on vacation over the weekend at a Mexican restaurant and they gave us a big plate of crickets and I was all up in that.
Oh. Were they fried? So they're crispy?
They were lightly fried and crispy, but they were in like a little spice blend. They had a little spice going on. They were really yummy.
What would you compare it to? So no, the answer, y'all, Michaela and Riley, she's eating crickets. There's not anything.
I'll literally eat anything. I had brains over Halloween at Mr. Mao. I'll eat literally anything.
For crickets,
if it's delicious.
What were they compared to?
Yeah, they just had a little like air fried crisp kind of almost nutty.
Did the little legs get stuck in your mouth?
No. They actually
they
actually make a cricket flour. It's supposed to be like the protein of the future is all of these like bug flours that they have coming our way.
I feel like I read about that maybe like 7 years ago, but I haven't read about it since.
And it said cricket flour is the future, and now it's just we're in the future now, and it didn't happen.
It is just crickets on that. But it was like this is the protein, it was like this is the protein of the future. It was also like it's the most cost effective. It was like all this stuff, and surprisingly, it didn't take off.
No, for me, it's. Not to say that everyone will think that crickets are a delicious food, but for me, there is no real food that freaks me out or weirds me out or, yucks me or anything like that. I don't like to yuck other people's yums either. Yeah. But for me, if it's delicious and I apparently have a really high threshold for that, then I'm eating it.
Yeah. I can't, there's not a lot that I say that, but I think about different things that like my friend Amy, when she's been overseas, like she was served, I'll just say it, rat. I wouldn't want to eat
that. Would be a weird one, probably.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not going, household pet route or anything like that.
Okay. So there's so many other spaces we could go down, but we're going to end it on a positive because we could.
I think adventurous eats are
people.
Positive. I think that's the whole idea of Instagram is like being exposed to different people and what they're about and what lights them up, what they're excited to share, what's genuine to them. And for me, being really open-minded and food adventurous. I like travel. I like good old New Orleans stuff that I've been eating since the day I was born. It's just all that is fun to me.
Who are some of the accounts that you love following?
Yeah, so I love quite a few here locally, and shout out to a lot of them too for, seeing them at events. And
It's like a family.
yeah, we see each other all the time and we do dinners, and, sometimes I'll get invited to something and I'll loop someone else in, and they'll get invited to something and they'll loop me in. And yeah, so I love seeing all my people out there. There are a few, as far as national accounts go, I would say that I skew a little bit more like fitness and lifestyle. There's one called Rachel's Good Eats. She's a registered dietitian and a certified personal trainer. So her page kind of skews equal parts her fitness routines. She does a lot of things that people can follow along, for free, posts that she does. And also, yummy little recipes. I made these little protein bite balls that she did. They're so easy. You just keep them in the fridge. I like Melissa Wood Tepperberg. She's really big on like the balance, and her whole thing is Pilates, but she also just reminds you to like meditate and to chill out and to breathe and to like focus on your loved ones. She's got a great husband and 2 little kiddos, and it's just a nice little reminder. So there's a lot of food, but there's a lot of lifestyle too. I like Mari Llewellyn. She's also one that's always showing you what she's eating, but not in a overwhelming, do as I do kind of a way, just as a nice inspo moment. And then she also has a big focus on workouts and things like that. And so those are the kinds of accounts that I really like to follow.
You've also said that there's a little bit of like the fatigue of others that are just so like over the top, maybe.
Yeah, some of the national accounts, when they solely focus on food, it's, there'll be like a tiny little blonde holding a slice of pizza that's bigger than she even is. Or there's just a lot of ads for chain spots that are in the undercurrent of the content. A lot of ads. I don't love being sold on things. They say like, when you walk into a store and someone tries to get you to buy something, you feel so overwhelmed and you don't want to buy it. But when you walk in and you're just able to shop and look around and enjoy like what actually speaks to your sensibilities, then shopping's fun, but no one wants to be sold.
Because you're immediately no thank you as you walk in.
Yeah.
The something that is also interesting, and for our listeners, you may or may not know it, if there's something that you're seeing repeatedly, maybe someone you followed that started out in this very pure way and you enjoyed their content, or after hearing us now, you're like, let me take a closer look. And you're like, oh, wow, those all were paid placements and I didn't realize it. You can choose to unfollow them, of course, but you can also mute their account, which just means that it won't show up for you like this. And so, especially if you don't want to fully unfollow, that feels either like too much of a step, or you may know the person or you don't want to do that. You can do that and they don't see it. And so
you can mute stories or posts.
Yeah.
I think too, it's important, like those things are not permanent. So those things can ebb and flow. Maybe you're in a space, maybe you're in a headspace or whatever. And you can't really, you're not in a spot to watch someone's stories for a bit, but then you can revisit that later if that changes for you. So I think, I like the mute option much better than a hard unfollow generally.
And if something isn't bringing us a sense of either inspiration or a level of like education or inspiration or something that's creating a positive response within us, if we see something and we're having that negative response, we've talked about that on this podcast before, either unfollow or mute or, whatever it feels, but make sure that you're guiding we guide what's being presented to us on our social accounts. We have the control of that. And so if we're seeing something that is leaving us feeling less than, or leaving us feeling like a twinge of something that just doesn't feel good, if it's we're finding ourselves comparing ourselves or whatever it may be, start to rethink our relationship with that account that we're following and how do we want to change that. So making sure that we're not letting ourselves feel less after we're scrolling.
Yeah, you really want to be in alignment with your values, and you want to be following pages too that really like bolster the habits that you're trying to create for yourselves. That's why I like a lot of these more, nutritious inspo and fitness type accounts. Not that I don't follow my share of fluffy things or, West Highland Terrier pages or fashion pages or whatever. But yes, certainly the moment that something makes me feel out of alignment or less than, or just sticks on me or something like that. Yeah, I have no qualms with either muting or the dreaded unfollow.
So any last takeaways for our listeners, whether it's, just sort of as they're scrolling, kind of the lens with which to kind of look at what's being presented to them through different influencers, or someone who may be interested in pursuing that route themselves?
I think probably the best tips that I've heard are consistency, and also just that you have value to add. Just because there's probably plenty of us New Orleans food bloggers, but we all have a unique perspective. And I think that you just really sit in that and give yourself credit for that and know that you have value to add as long as you are willing to work at it and hone your photography skills. Definitely making connections with the rest of us is fun. I think we're a pretty cool group. We see each other out at events a lot. So yeah, feel free to tag your fellow influencers, certainly tag restaurants, say yes to things. When you show up, introduce yourself, be happy to be there, conduct yourself well, just stay consistent with it for sure.
All right, perfect. And we'll include Emma's account so that, we'll have it in the show notes, but specifically on Instagram, Emma Eats NOLA. We'll give our plug to Eat Fit also, Eat Fit NOLA.
Hey.
You can see our restaurants there. And then through that, you can see, of course, we have our Eat Fit regions around the state. We give a shout out to our team there. We've got Emma is one of a team of 6 dietitians throughout Louisiana who are working with our restaurants. And so we have Eat Fit Monroe and Eat Fit Shreveport that are soon merging into the Eat Fit 318 space on social. Eat Fit BR with our Eat Fit Baton Rouge account, Savannah Latimer. Also Eat Fit North Shore, our dietitian Brittany is leading that, soon to be our dietitian Annie Kent. And then Eat Fit Acadiana with Yvette Quant. And then it's Anna and Hope up in North Louisiana that we're talking about. So we've got our whole team that is steering the Eat Fit space in Louisiana. And then Emma specifically with Eat Fit NOLA.
Yeah, they do such a great job with them. I mean, I really admire the work that they've been doing long since before I stepped into this role. I think that we collaborate really well. I think that they have really inventive content. We all have something different to offer in each of the regions, but I still think it's really such a cohesive relationship that we all have too.
Sweet. So y'all check it out. Again, I'll link to Emma's account and our Eat Fit accounts in the show notes of this episode. Thank you, Emma.
Thank you.
A huge thank you to Emma for sharing her time with us. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I have. I am registered dietitian Molly Kimball, and you've been listening to Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, the podcast. If you'd like more Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, please head over to mollykimball.com. You can follow me, Molly Kimball, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you haven't yet, please go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Join us next week for another dose of Fueled Wellness and Nutrition. Thanks for listening, and stay focused on living your strongest, healthiest life.